In this video, we are going to create an interactive chat application in .NET. And this video will include the following 6 chapters. The first chapter, you're going to learn about the building blocks of .NET AI, because our chat application is going to be based on the .NET AI building blocks. We're going to have to know how it actually works, what are the main classes, and how the main classes interact with each other. The second chapter, we're going to cover the project preparation. Starting from the third chapter, we're going to establish the connection to the AI server. In this case, we're going to use OpenAI Server. Chapter 4, we're going to start sending messages and receiving responses. And chapter 5 is interesting because in chapter 4, we're only creating a generic chatbot. It's similar to ChatGPT. You can ask any questions and ChatGPT will try to answer. But that's not particularly very useful because you might want to create a chatbot just for potential customers who are interested in your own services. So we need to be able to limit the scope of the chatbot. That's what we're going to talk about in chapter 5. And then in chapter 6, we're going to create an interactive chat app as a console application for the purpose of learning SQL. So you can see that we're actually limiting the chatbot to only provide information about SQL. So without further ado, let's get started. And we're going to talk about chapter 1, how .NET AI building blocks works. So if you search .NET AI building blocks on the internet, you might see this article from Microsoft. Scroll down, you're going to see this diagram. If we make it look bigger, then it looks like this. It's not so easy to understand, but what I want you to actually pay attention to is inside here, you see large language model clients and AI services. And you see Azure AI interface, OpenAI, and GitHub's models. And I want you to pay more attention to OpenAI service here and GitHub models because these tools are the ones that we are going to use in this video. And then another thing I want you to pay attention to is this namespace, Microsoft.extensions.ai, because most of the classes that we use to communicate with the AI server is from this namespace. But what exactly are those classes? Let's jump back to our diagram over here. So if we create a new one, in a basic chatbot, usually the AI service is provided from a remote server, right? So this side, and it's usually in the form of OpenAI. In order to use OpenAI, there will have to be a client application. And this client application, in this case, we're going to create with .NET Console application. The client application sends chat messages to the AI service and receive chat responses. So in .NET, these functionalities are abstracted into the following main classes. Okay, so let's delete the lines for now, and I'm going to delete the content now. So this is our client application. I'm going to make it bigger. So first of all, we're going to have a client class, and it is called the chat client. This chat client is specifically for creating a chat bot or chat application to communicate with the remote AI service. The message that is sent to the AI service is represented by the class ChatMessage. And the message that comes back as a response to the client is represented by the class that is called ChatResponse. But sometimes when we deal with large responses, the message within the response comes back chunk by chunk. And you have noticed that when you use ChatGPT or any type of large language model, you see the message comes back piece by piece instead of as a whole message, right? Sometimes it takes a minute for the message to come back, but you see them piece by piece, so you don't have to wait for the whole 1 minute. So in that case, the class that represents the response is called ChatResponse update. So I'm putting these two classes side by side because these represents different forms of responses. And another main, this time is not a class, but an enumeration, is called ChatRole. A ChatRole is actually used to describe a chat message or a chat response because there are 3 types of chat roles. There is this user chat role, which represents the message that is sent from the client to the AI service at a prompt. And then there is this role that is called system. This represents a requirement that is provided by developers to limit the scope of the chatbot. Finally, we have this role that is called assistant, which refers to the message that comes back from the AI. So therefore, we have these 5 different classes or enumerations for creating a basic chat application in .NET. We have chat client, in order to establish connection. We have ChatMessage in order to send a prompt. Either ChatResponse or ChatResponse update to represent the replies of the AI service. Finally, we have this ChatRole to describe the roles of the message. Is it from the user? Is it from the system? Or is it from the AI assistant? Having said all of this, let's start preparing our project to start creating our chat application. Let's jump into Visual Studio here. First of all, I have to say that you will have to make sure that you updated your Visual Studio. I'm using Visual Studio 2022 Community Edition. Take a look at my Visual Studio. And I'm updated to the latest version as of March 18th, 2025. So your version will either have to be this version or later than this version in order to work with the NuGet packages that I'm about to install. Because these NuGet packages don't actually exist as a latest stable version. They are in pre-release mode. And only the latest Visual Studio is able to actually work with these pre-release versions. Let's start by creating a console application in C#. I'm going to select console app, click on next. And then over here, I'm going to call this chat app for learning and click on next. And the latest version I have is .NET 9 and just click on the create button. Okay, we don't need to see the hello world. Let's delete everything here. And we're going to go to Solution Explorer. Here, we're going to right click and try to install NuGet packages. So I have something wrong here after I update Visual Studio. This checkbox you will have to check. Right? It says include, but then it says ... No matter how I do, like I don't see the rest of the captions here. It actually says include pre-release packages, something like that. Right? I don't remember exactly, but just check this. Now let's go to the Browse tab, and the first package we're going to install is OpenAI package. The OpenAI package is going to help us to establish connection to the OpenAI service. So let's just select this. But instead of selecting the latest stable version, we're going to select the latest pre-release version because this is the version that is going to work with the rest of the other packages. So let's click on the install button. Now let's try to install the next package. And this one is Microsoft.extensions.ai and OpenAI. Microsoft.extensions.ai.openai, which is this one. Again, select the latest pre-release version and click on install. Now let's proceed to the next one, which is Microsoft.extensions.configuration. We're going to use this preview version, click on install. And the next one is Microsoft.extensions.configuration.user secrets. Because we're going to store some credentials in user secrets, that's why we need this package. But for this one, if we use the latest preview version, we might run into some problems. Let's actually give it a try. Okay, we don't have any problems. That's good. So now let's go to solutions and go to projects. Let's take a look at what we have. We have all of the 4 packages, OpenAI. This is to establish connection to the AI service. And we have this extensions.ai.openai. This is to use the chat client, the chat messages, chat response. Those classes come from this package. And then we have these 2 packages in order to use user secrets as configuration. So in order to connect to the OpenAI server, we will have an OpenAI client. So we define an OpenAI client variable here, and we're going to create an instance of OpenAI client. This comes from the OpenAI package over here. As you can see here, the OpenAI client needs a credential, which is an API key credential, and also client options. In the client options here, we're going to specify to connect to a OpenAI server. Let's define a credential as well as a option. So credential, and it is a API key credential. So here it needs a API key as a string. Let's just use empty string for now. And also we need to have a OpenAI option. So I'm going to create a OpenAI client option. And for that, we need to provide the endpoint as a URI. And here we need to specify the address. The URL we are going to use is this azure.com. This is the Microsoft OpenAI service that can work with GitHub models. Why we mention GitHub models? GitHub is owned by Microsoft. We can create a token as an API key. So if I go to GitHub and I go to my own account, so over here, I go to settings, and from the left hand side, if I scroll to the very bottom, look at the developer settings over here. And then we have this personal access tokens. If I open it up, I can select either token, classic token or fine grained token. So I'm going to select fine grained token. And I have already created my token here, but if I delete it, and I can create a new one. But first of all, let me grab my cell phone and look at the Authenticator app. And my code is 751447 at this moment. Okay, so now I can click on Generate New Token. And I can give it a token name. I'm going to call it Chat App AI Token. And then it says it's available. Okay, and I'm going to just click on this Generate Token button and click on this. And now I have a token like this. And if I copy it, then I can use it here. I can use it like this, but it's not actually very secure. So that's why we installed the other two packages to work with user secrets. So how do we work with user secrets? We can come over here and right click on the project and then click on Manage User Secrets. So you can consider this as a app settings file if you are familiar with ASP.NET Core. Here is just a configuration file in the JSON format. So I can have a models, and then inside the models, I can have token, and then I can paste this token over here. Now, in order to access the token, I can go to program.cs, and I'm going to create a configuration object over here. So I'm going to say new configuration builder, and then I'm going to say add user secrets to program, and then I'm going to say build. Now I can use the config object here in order to access the user secrets. I can either do it right here in the credentials, or I can create two other variables. So here this is going to be, the first one is going to be key, and I'm going to load it from the user secrets by providing the parent node name and then one that I want to use, which is token. Then I can come to API credential over here. I can say key. But it's possible, you can see we have a green screen line. It's possible that it's null. So when it is null, I can throw a invalid operation exception or any type of exception you want to throw that you think makes sense. So I'm going to just throw exception right here. So I'm going to, and I say missing configuration models : token. Okay, so we have this credential right here. We can use it to create this OpenAI client. Credential. And the second parameter is the options. So we already have the option, which points to the AI service on azure.com. Okay, now we have the OpenAI client, which is not the chat client yet. Right? We have the OpenAI client that points to the AI service that runs on Azure. But for creating the chat application, this OpenAI client is not enough. We need to have a chat client. So let's create a chat client out of this. Fortunately, it's very easy to convert the OpenAI client into a chat client. That's because we have one of those packages installed, right? It introduces extension methods to the OpenAI client. So we can say OpenAI client, and then we can say as, well, this is wrong. We have to use the variable instead of the class. And then we can add the extension method as chat client. You can see that this comes from the Microsoft extensions.ai namespace. And then you can see that this one takes a model ID. We're going to talk about models later, but let's use empty string for now. This is going to give us a chat client that we can use to actually have conversations with AI. Here, we're going to have to talk about model. So we actually have different models for ChatGPT. Okay, so if we look at this article here from OpenAI platform, and you can see that it's actually model selections. You can choose between a regular ChatGPT 4 model or a mini one. And you can see that the mini one is actually very cheap and is also very efficient. So therefore, we are going to use this model, and we're going to store this also in the secrets. So let's go over here, and then, oh, actually the secrets JSON is right here. And I'm going to create another node here, and we're gonna call it model. I'm going to paste this model name over here. And then let's go back to program.cs, and we're going to create another variable right here. Let's just call it model. And we are going to grab the models from, actually grab the model name from here. So here, this has to be called name, which corresponds to, well, this is wrong. We're going to change this to name. So we have models and we have token, right? And we have name. So therefore, we're going to grab the model like this, models colon name. So we have this model. We're going to feed this model to this asChatClient method here. Now we have the chat client ready for us to talk to the AI service right here. So here we have a green CB line. I'm going to say if we don't have a model, then I'm going to use empty string. Now we're going to go to the next chapter, which is we're going to send chat messages and receive chat response. So let's go back and continue. Now we're going to create a chat message. I'm going to say chat message equals to new chat message. And the chat message class constructor takes a role and a content, which is the prompt. The role, we can use the ChatRole enumeration. And we're going to say this is a user, which means this is a regular prompt from the user. And I can ask a question like, what is .NET AI? Or maybe more specific, when I say, what is .NET AI building blocks? Or maybe we should say, what are .NET AI building blocks? Now we need to send this message through the client to the AI service. So I'm going to say ChatClient.getResponse async. There are different ways to communicate with the AI service. This is one of the first ways I want to show you. GetResponse async. And we need to just pass in the chat message, and that's it. And because this is async method, so we're going to use the wait keyword, and we will receive the response. So when the wait finishes, the rest of the code after line 23 is considered as a continuation of this method here. So we need to continue with what? We need to look at the response, right? So basically we can just output whatever that is in the response. So in order to make it very clear, we're going to say console.writeLine, and I'm going to just write an empty line first, and then I'm going to write some stars, and after that I'm going to say this is from the AI. This is basically their AI response. And then I have another line like this. I also want to make the response in a different color. So we're going to say console.foreground. I'm going to say equals to a console color dot. Let's say that the response comes back is going to be in, at least these messages are going to be in blue. And then the actual response is going to be in white again. And after that, I'm going to say console.writeLine, and I'm going to just output response.text. See right here, we establish the connection with the AI service from this URL. And then we grab the chat client, we establish a chat message, we send the chat message through the client to the AI service, and we get a response. Afterwards, we output all of this information. The most important thing here is we are outputting response.text. And let's run this application. Remember that AI application takes a moment or two to actually provide the response, because all of this happens and we have this AI service that runs remotely. So let's click on the run button and let's observe what's going to happen. All right, so we have the response come back and it says AI response. Let me make it look much bigger. And you can see that these are from the response.text. So let's close the application. Let's come back. Here, we didn't provide any limitation, which means that whatever question we ask, we're going to come back with the answer, just like ChatGPT. And as we mentioned in the introduction, It may not be very useful because we already have ChatGPT, we have Copilot from Microsoft, we have Gemini from Google, we have everything accessible. Why do we need another ChatGPT? Right? So usually we want to limit our chatbot to provide specific information. We can even feed it with our own knowledge base, as for example, PDF files. The chatbot is going to only provide information based on those provided information. Right? But here we are going to talk about basics. We can limit the AI service to only give us specific information by providing another chat message. So let's modify our existing code in order to do that. So right after the chat client, instead of only using one chat message, we're going to use two messages. So for that, we're going to create a list of chat messages. So I'm going to say chat message, right? List of chat messages. And here I'm going to say messages equals to new list chat message. So we're creating a list. And the first one is going to be a chat message with a chat role that is system. We're going to provide the following instruction. So basically, we limit the AI service to only provide us with information about Microsoft SQL Server and SQL Server language. So I define this AI assistant as a knowledgeable teacher who only teaches these two subjects, or basically one subject, right? And we instruct it to say that when you're helping people, you always ask them for a question about SQL. Now I can add another message to this and to ask about something else. So for example, I'm going to say new chat message. Actually, I'm going to just copy this and paste it right here. Now I'm going to add a semicolon to finish this. And here, getResponse.async, it actually can accept list of messages. I'm going to just feed it right here. But here's an interesting thing, right? We are instructing the service to only provide us with information about Microsoft SQL Server and SQL Server language. Now, here, as a user prompt, we're asking about .NET AI building blocks. Let's run this and see what are we going to get. Now, it says, I'm focused on Microsoft SQL Server and SQL Server language. If you have any questions related to SQL, such as writing queries, blah, 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 right, you can ask me. Otherwise, I don't answer your question. This is the power of using the ChatRole.system, right? It can limit the scope of the AI service, which is basically saying that it's limit your chatbot scope. Now, we're going to the last step, which is actually to create an interactive chat application for learning SQL Server. Right, so far, we have been creating this application, but it only returns one single response. So it's actually pretty easy to create a console application based. Okay, so we can come over here and we're going to say well, and then we say true. So create an infinite loop. And here we're going to ask user to input prompt. We can say, do this, copy this. And for this, we're going to have the green color. And we are going to have a empty line first and then a message. And say your prompt. And now we can read user prompt. Let's say console.read line. And then here, let's say the messages.add. We're going to add the user prompt as a chat message. So here chat role is user and the message is user prompt. And now we are going to output these lines. So let's actually delete all of these. We don't need them anymore. Here we change the color to blue and I actually want to change it back. So console.white. And then instead of using just the get response async, we're going to use get streaming response async. We're going to get information back piece by piece. So we're going to say chat client.get streaming response async, and then we provide the messages as a prompt. Right? So this is going to come back as a IEnumerable of chat response update. I'm going to say await, and then for each, I'm going to say var item, or maybe I should just say update, right, in chat client that got streaming response async. And then I'm going to say console dot write. I'm going to write whatever that is in the update, right? This is the response update. I'm going to say update dot text. Notice that I'm not using red line here because the streaming is not consistent. It doesn't come back line by line. It could come back, half word and then continue with the rest of the word. So that's why I'm using console.write here. And then I still need to concatenate the message in order to actually add that to the chat history here, right? This is actually a chat history. We're maintaining all of the conversations inside this variable, which includes the initial system message and then user message, as well as all of the messages that comes back from the AI service, which is of the ChatRole assistant. All of the messages that are of the 3 different roles will be inside this messages variable here. So here, when it comes back, we need to concatenate that. So I'm going to say response equals to, let's say we initialize that with an empty string. And then over here, we're going to say response equals to update, well, actually plus equal. So response equals to response plus update dot text. Now at the end, I'm going to first of all add a new chat message to the messages list. And this one, ChatRole.assistant. So this is actually assistant because it comes back from the AI service, right? And the second parameter is the response. And after this, it's going to be starting again because we have this infinite loop here, and it has a red line, which is a empty line here. This provides a pretty good separation. But I think it will be nicer if I'm going to add this, if I add the stars as well. So this makes everything very clear. So here, this is green. So this is green and this is blue, right? So that'll be good. Now let's give it a try. We finally have our interactive chatbot as a console application. The console application itself is a chatbot, and it's limited to only learn about SQL. So if I start typing, it's green. I don't like that. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it right here. So only these messages are in different colors. The other ones are still in white color. So let's run the application again. It says your prompt. So I'm going to, if I ask who is Donald Trump, it's going to tell me I can't answer. This is I only focus on Microsoft SQL Server, right? So then I ask, how do I create a SQL, maybe let's say a table in SQL Server? You can see that it actually comes piece by piece, right? It doesn't come as an entire message. That's how the get streaming response works. And it tells me how to use create table to create employees table. And remember that I mentioned that we're actually storing the entire history inside this list. So it should remember about whatever messages that already mentioned. Right? So here, if I ask about something else, so if I say that, how do I, or I'm going to say a simple question, what is a primary key? And then it's just going to explain to me what the primary key is and providing examples. Now, if I try to refer to this employees table in my next prompt, I hope that this chatbot still remembers. So I'm going to say, in your employees table, how do I create a unique index to make the first name plus last name unique? Obviously, it remembers about the employees, right? And it tells me, well, you can use this command. You can say create unique index and then provide this columns combination, then it will be able to create a unique index. So if we come back to our chat application, you can see creating a large language model chatbot in .NET is super easy. You only need to, first of all, create the client and then create the prompt. After that, you send the prompt and receive the response. Make sure that you form a message list, or we can say prompt list, to store all of the prompt that is happening within the same session, so that the conversation between the end user and the AI service is continuous. It's going to appear that the AI remembers what the user actually talked about. Okay, that's everything I want to cover in this video. If you're still here, I really appreciate if you give me a like to help me grow my YouTube channel and continuously provide free content to my audience. Thank you for watching. See you in my next video.